Wondershare's Filmora video editor has come a really long way in recent years, and it's now high on our list for best video editing software, especially if you're an absolute beginner. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to use Filmora and how you can get up to speed fast with a complete quick start video editing tutorial. Hey, it's Justin Brown here from Primal Video, where we help you amplify your business and brand with video. If you're new here, make sure you click that subscribe button, and all the links to everything we mentioned in this video, you can find linked in the description box below. So let's jump into it. Now, I've got to be totally honest with you, not that long ago, I never thought that I would be recommending Filmora as a serious option for video editing. But during our recent roundup of the best video editors out there, I was incredibly surprised at how far Filmora has come. I mean, yes, it's still on the beginner end of things, but it is really easy to use and you can quickly and easily get great results, especially if you're just starting out or if you're someone who just doesn't want to be overwhelmed with too many features and controls or a more complicated interface that you'll find in more professional applications. So right now then, we've put together this quick start video editing tutorial to help those of you looking to get started with Filmora. We will be doing a step-by-step walkthrough of all the major features and how to use them, following along with our recommended process for editing fast, the primal video method. All of this allows you to edit with minimal wasted time and rework, no matter which editing software you're using. And once we're done with the walkthrough, I'll also share with you a link where you can grab your copy of the process to download and follow along next time you're editing. Okay, so this is the first thing you see when you open up Filmora. Now, I'm on a Mac, but the PC version is exactly the same. So the first thing you need to do is to set up your project. You need to choose the aspect ratio of your project, whether you're doing a widescreen, a 1:1 for Instagram, portrait, standard, or cinema. So for us, we're gonna go widescreen 16:9, and we're gonna click on New Project. So we'll do a quick run through on the interface first to show you where all the important stuff is. So up here, this is your settings and all of your menus and all those sorts of things. So you can see here we're on the media tab, which is where you can import your media. You've got your audio library here, your titles, transitions, effects, elements, and you've also got split screen presets in here as well. We'll dive into these a little bit more as we go. The next one across is your playback window. This is where you get to preview and play back your actual edit. Down the bottom here, you've got your play and your stop and your next frame and previous frame. So you can control the playback here. And down under here, this is where we can customize a few things up. Like we can change the aspect ratio. Again, we just picked widescreen. In here, if you wanted to change that up, then this is where we can make changes to that or actually set a custom resolution or aspect ratio here as well. So for us, we're going to leave it here at widescreen, but if you do want to change this from HD or full HD, you can go up to 4K or even DCI 4K. Or again, you can create your own by typing in the dimensions that you'd like your video at. You can also set your frame rate here as well. Now the footage I'm going to be working with in this project is actually 4K footage, so I'll set that to 4K, and the frame rate that it was shot at was 25 frames per second. So you want to set this stuff up first. Now if you don't know what resolution or what frame rate your footage was shot at, you can just ignore this for now, and when you bring in your first clip, it will ask you if you want to automatically set it to match the footage that you've created. So we're just going to go OK here. Next to that is the snapshot button. If you want to save out a freeze frame or an image from your video, you've then got volume control here, this little slider. And if you want to preview your video in full screen, the next one here will let you do that. I'll back out of that now. What I like to turn on here is the audio bars just by pressing this. And you can see here, this is going to give us an indication of our volume levels of our clips as we start editing. So I normally like to leave that one on. Next to that is the timeline zoom slider. So we can zoom in and out on our timeline using this. You can also use the keyboard shortcuts Command or Control plus and minus as well. If you want to see your entire timeline, then you click the button next to that, and that's going to zoom to adjust so that you can see everything on there. The next one across is the audio mixer. This is where you can adjust all your volumes and things for all of your different audio tracks. If you want to record a voiceover inside of Filmora, then you can do that on the next one here, record voiceover. And if you want to add markers and those sorts of things and notes into your timelines, then that's what the next button does. And obviously the big window down the bottom here, this is your timeline. And there's a few other important buttons that you should be aware of, and they are up here. This is your edit button. So if you've got a clip selected in your timeline, you can press on this and that will bring up the settings to let you edit that. The next one across is to cut or to split your clip, to cut them in half, delete, Undo and redo are these last two arrows here. All right, so first up, you want to bring all of your media in, all of your video files, your audio files, your music, your graphics, anything that you actually want to use in your video, you want to bring those in. So you want to make sure that you're on the media tab up here and that you can see this. You can either click on this folder here and you can select the files individually, or if we back out of this, you can choose File, Import Media, and you can choose Import Media Folder. And this is where you can select a folder if you've got everything nicely organized. So for me, I do have a folder here, video files. I'll choose open. That's going to bring all of those things in. Okay, so we've got our files in. You can see that we've got a couple of audio tracks. We've got 2 camera angles of the same video, and we've got some B-roll or overlay footage that we're going to use in our project. So once you've got all of your video assets in, you want to bring your video footage down into your timeline. You just click and drag it down on there. You can see it'll go through and it'll generate thumbnail images as you go, and it'll also generate the audio waveform or the visual representation of your audio there. And what it's also doing in the background is it's creating an optimized version or a proxy version of this video file to speed up performance on my computer. That's what this green line is going across here now, is creating an optimized version of this clip. Okay, so once you've got your video file down in the timeline, the first thing you want to do is to start trimming it down and removing all the pieces that you are definitely not going to use in your end videos. That's all your mistakes, all your bad takes, anything that you 100% don't want to use in the video. So how we do that? This red line here is your playback indicator or your playback head. We can scrub this along, just click and drag it along until we start talking here. So at this point, we can cut our timeline. We're coming up here to the pair of scissors. We have now cut our timeline in two. We now have 2 clips. We can select the first one here, press delete, and it has been removed, and that gap has now been closed. So our video now is starting at that point. So we'll come across to the other side of our timeline and go to the end of the video, and we'll do exactly the same. We can either click and play through our video, just pressing the play button or pressing spacebar and stopping it at the point we want our video to stop, or we can look at that audio down here and we can see where I've actually stopped talking. So instead of just adding a cut, you can also position your mouse cursor over the edge of a clip. You can see that we get that different arrowhead there now. So if we click and drag from there, we're able to shorten or extend our video clip. So if I drag it back this way and let it go there, our video clip now finishes at that point. And you can also use a combination of these things. So see this big gap in the timeline here in the audio, just to say that we want to remove that, which I would imagine most people would. Let's come across here to this point. Let's add a cut, hitting the scissors, then grab this edge of that video clip and slide it across to here. And we have removed that gap. So you can see how easy it is to do some basic editing here to trim off the start, trim off the end. Then you want to go through and again, remove all of the bad takes, any of the gaps, any of the mistakes, all the stuff that you 100% don't want in your end video. Now with all these individual clips that you've got in your timeline now, you can also pick them up and move them around. So if we want to move this one to the end, we can just pick it up and drop it down the end, and then we can close the gap by either selecting them and moving them across, or if I undo that now, we can select the gap and press delete, and that's going to remove that gap from our timeline. So once you've gone through and you've done kind of your first pass and you've removed all of those mistakes and bits that you don't want in there, now you can bring in any B-roll or overlay footage to really help you start to build this edit out. So we've got a couple of sample clips at the top here. We'll grab one of these and drop it on our timeline. Now for these clips here, we don't want any music in there, so I'm just going to right click on it and choose detach audio. That's going to split off that audio from the top clip, and I'm just going to select it and delete it. So we've just got the video portion of this top clip. So now I'm just going to scrub through here and have a look at the footage that we've got. So as a pan across, we might use that one. Let's select the clip and add a cut. Command B on Mac or Control B on PC just to cut, or use those scissors. Select this first part, let's remove that. So we'll come along here to probably about there. Add another cut there. So that first clip is good. We might position that over here somewhere. Let's look at what other clips we've got of that product. Let's cut here and come across a bit further. Remove that section. Maybe we'll put these two here side by side. So as we scrub through, it gets to this one here. It goes back the other way. We might actually even want to reverse that clip so that it is playing in the same direction. So with the clip selected, we'll come up here to adjust speed. Let's go down to reverse. And now when we scrub through this section, see this one's moving that way, and we've got this one going that way as well. Now, obviously I'm going pretty fast through this stuff. I want to show you where everything is so that you can get creative in your own edits. Okay, so maybe we've had enough out of this clip here. We'll delete that one. Let's have a look inside the other one. Now, instead of just clicking and dragging it down to the timeline, the other thing you can do is to double click on it, and you're able to see it and preview it up in the playback window here. And we can also set an in and out point, or specify the section that we want to use in our edit from up here as well. So let's say we want to start our clip about here. We can come over here to the in marker, and we can see we've added an in point, or where we want it to start it. Let's keep going through. Let's say we want it to finish about here. Let's add an out point. You can see we've got an in and an out. So now if we go to add the clip to the timeline, it's just that section that we have highlighted. Now, if you just want to mute the audio on this clip without deleting it, as we did before, you could just come along here and grab this little bar and pull it down. This is your volume level. Let's pull it down to the bottom. And now that clip has no audio that's going to play back in our video. So go through, add in all of your B-roll, all of your overlay footage to build out the story. And obviously, as you're going through, you might be tweaking and adjusting your clips. You might be picking them up and moving them around, again, to refine this edit every time you go through it. Next thing to do is to add in any music or any audio into your project. So we'll come up here, we'll grab an audio track, drag it down, and these actually work exactly the same as your video files, and that you can pick them up, you can move them around, you can trim off the ends, you can add cuts in them. You can edit them exactly the same as you would a video file. So I've just shortened the end off there so that it finishes at the same time as our video. And now that you've got your music or your audio in there, this is when you'll go through again and do another pass on this timeline, again tweaking and adjusting everything, and maybe even adding some edits to the beat of the music, depending on the type of video you're making. Once you've gone through that, you can then go through and add in any text or titles or graphics. So for that, we're going to come up the top here to titles. There are a heap of presets in here for titles that you can add and drag and drop into your timeline. There's also a lot more that you can download from the Filmora website as well. But let's just go through here and pick a basic lower third title, and we'll click and drag that down onto our timeline. Let's move it near the front of the video, and it says here your title here. To edit that, all we need to do is to double click on it, and that's going to let us edit the text here. Select the text, let's type in Justin Brown. And you can see over the other side here, we've got a lot of control over how we can customize this up. Things like the fonts, the size, the color. There's a heap of preset styles and those sorts of things in here. So let's just pick something basic. We can come down here and you can change the position or the rotation. We can make it bigger or smaller. All of those sorts of things. You can really customize everything up in here. And if you want some more advanced control over this, then all you need to do is hit on advanced. And this is where you really open it up in their full title editor, or title inspector as they call it. So for us, we'll just go okay now, and let's play through this section. And you can see that the title animates in and appears on screen. So these, as I said, are just the same as any other clip. We can pick them up, we can move them around. If we want it to be on screen longer, we can stretch it out. If we want it shorter, we can shorten it there too. So you want to go through then and add in all the titles and any text that you want to have in your videos. And then we're going to look at transitions. So transitions is the next one along here. Now these you can apply between clips, and essentially it's going to transition from one clip into another. Now this is an area in particular that a lot of people, especially when they're starting out editing, just go overboard on transitions and can make their videos look really cheap and nasty. So use these sparingly and only where they are adding value or adding to the story that you're telling. But in most cases, it's just the simple ones that you'll want to use, things like a dissolve or a crossfade. So if we grab this dissolve here and let's drag it to the start of this clip. Now as we scrub through here, it's me talking. And you can see we've just done a dissolve, or kind of like a fade, over to this shot. And we can shorten that down so it's happening faster, or lengthen it out if you'd like to. So I'll make this one pretty quick. Let's just take a look at that now. Just a really quick crossfade there. Now these will work between any clips that you have in your timeline, so you could have them between these two clips here of me speaking, but it's probably not going to make a lot of sense in this case because it's the same camera angle, same shot. But what I would use in this case, instead of an actual transition, is zoom in on one of the shots just to change up the shot a little bit and to make it look a little bit different for the viewers. But it also helps mask that there was an edit or something removed at that point. So to do that, all we need to do is to double click on one of our clips here. And then let's come up here to scale. and you can see that we are able to make that bigger, essentially zooming in. Now you don't want to go too high or zoom in too much with this, because depending on your camera and the recording quality and the timeline that you're editing in, you could actually be losing quality. But normally up to around 112, 115%, the quality loss is going to be pretty marginal. Now what I would normally do when I'm doing this is try to keep the eye position in the same sort of level, so it's not as jarring for the viewers with that subtle zoom in. So we can either click over here and drag down. Let's come back here and play through, and just to check the eye positioning. Okay, so that's pretty close. So you can see just between these two shots, this is the first one, then it's going to jump into the next one here. It's just a little subtle difference to break it up. So this is what I would use instead of applying a transition between the two to help mask that hard cut. Okay, so you've gone through, you've added in your titles, your graphics, you've added in any transitions, or you've zoomed in on any shots. Next, we're going to look at your volume levels. So what I would suggest you do here is that you mute your music. So come down and click your music track. You can come over to the side here and mute it. Just hit the little button there, and that's now not going to play. But the audio that you want to adjust first is the spoken piece, the actual content first, and get that volume set right, and then come and adjust your music volume as a secondary to make sure that it's not too loud or too quiet or too distracting. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. You could do it on an individual clip by clip basis, and it can be as easy as just grabbing that blue line there, lifting it up to increase the volume, or lowering it down to lower the volume. I'll just undo that now. Or you can actually lower or raise the volume on the entire track. Now, if all of your footage was shot same time, same location, same microphone, same everything, I would suggest that you're doing it on the actual track itself. So you're doing all of these clips at once, really. So you want to come over here to the audio mixer, click on that one, and we have volume levels here for our tracks. So you can hit play down the bottom left-hand corner, and you can see there you've got your audio bars. So the master volume, or the entire video volume, is on the right-hand side here, and the individual tracks are on the left. So we can grab this volume here and lower it down. You can make it here as quiet as you'd like. But what I would suggest that you're doing, if this is your actual voiceover, your actual content piece, you want to increase it up to the point where it's in the green, going into the yellow, but definitely not in the red. You don't want to see any red in here. Red means it's too loud and that it's distorting. So you want to grab this slider and slide it up until the point where your audio is in the green, into the yellow, but definitely not into the red. The yellow into the orange is fine, but yeah, not red. So about there. We'll go okay on that one. So now that volume is set for our entire video layer and for all of our content piece. Once you've done that, you can then come down to your music. Now obviously here we want to unmute it. And then once again, we can either click and drag here and lower the volume on our track at this point, or we can go back over here to the audio mixer and adjust our volumes there. Now, I do want to say with the music, there really is no right or wrong with it. This is art. This is a creative thing. It really is about having it to the place where you like how it sounds and how it flows. In some cases, you might want to boost the volume up in certain sections and have it quieter in others. There is no set volume that your music should be at X level. We really just want to make sure, though, that it's not interfering or distracting from people being able to hear what's been said in the video, and that it's not annoying or distracting. So we can press play just by pressing spacebar. And again, we've got the audio bars on the side here. So at this point, you're listening, you're grabbing this slider, you're lowering it down or boosting it up to find the place where it sounds right for you. Ideally, you're doing this too with headphones on so that you can really hear what it sounds like. Now, if you double click on your audio track, you've got some other options up the top here as well. We can add a fade in at the start of our audio track so that it starts at 0 and fades in. And likewise at the end, if we want to fade our music out to quieten it off at the end, then we can apply that here. This is just the amount of time. So 0.4 seconds is how long it's going to fade in over. And for the fading out, 0.4 seconds, about the same. So let's just say that for the most part, we're happy with the volume level for our music, but there might be one little section where we want the music louder. There's a couple of ways that you can do this. You can come down and select the area where we want to increase it, and we can add a cut in the timeline with the scissors. Let's say for this section here, let's add another cut there. So for this section here, we want it to be louder. We can just add cuts on either side and raise the volume for that point. Or I'll undo this now. Let's remove those cuts. Or we can add what's called keyframes. So make sure your audio track is selected. Let's go back to where we want to start it increasing. And up here, we have our keyframe button. So we can add a keyframe at that point. So you see our audio is going to be playing along at this volume level. At this point is where it's going to start to change. So we can come across a little bit further. Let's add another keyframe there. Then we can raise this up or lower it, but let's raise it up. So you can see that our volume level is at this level. At this point, it starts to change to where we've set it at that next key point. Maybe we want it to go across to about here somewhere. Let's jump across, add another keyframe, and then we can take it back down to where we were. Or maybe even a little bit lower. There you go. So that's how easy it is to adjust your volume levels using keyframes as well. So the next step then, once you've got all of that dialed in where you like it, is to add your color grade or color correction. So where I'd suggest you start with this is with the first clip in your timeline. So you want to make sure that is selected. Now there's a few ways that you can access the color correction tools. You can double click on it. That's going to open up this edit panel up the top. You can see we're still on audio. We have video here, which was where we were able to zoom in and everything on our clips. That was audio. Motion is where you can add some motion to your clips. Or the next one here is color. So this panel here is really your basic color correction tools. There are advanced tools in here as well, but if you're someone who is not looking for all the advanced stuff, then this is a great place to start. The first thing you should do is grab this little color picker here, and this is setting your white balance. So you want to click on that and go and find something white in your scene. So let's come down here, maybe this white on the wave, and you can see that that's made a slight adjustment to the color there. It's adjusted with the temperature by 4 and the tint by 1. So that was kind of an auto adjustment. Now, for some people, that might be all that you need. Obviously, you can dial these in even further by using these sliders. I'll undo this. And you can also then adjust things like the contrast, the saturation, and the brightness here as well. So if your shot's a bit dark and you want to brighten it up, you can increase this slider here, maybe add a bit more color, make it look a little bit more tanned. Again, these are subtle increments. You can see if I boost this right up, yeah, sunburnt tomato. So we want to come back a little bit just to the point where it looks good for you. And again, this is one of those creative things. There's no right or wrong with this stuff. It's personal preference. Okay, so that's basic color correction. If you're looking for the advanced tools, let's just hit OK. Let's come back down to our clip here and let's choose color correct. And this is where you get access to your advanced color correction controls. So in here, there's also a heap of presets that you can just apply just by clicking on them. So obviously, if you're finding something that you like the look of here, you can either just run with it by hitting OK, that's applied to that clip, or you can select the one that you want to customize up and then come over here to adjust. And this is where you can make all the adjustments to really dial that in. Now know that you don't have to start with a preset if you don't want to, and at any time if you want to preview what your video footage was like before and after, you can click up here to show the original. So you can see already just by applying that preset, the clip looks totally different. So let's say we wanted to adjust this and to make some tweaks to it. The first place I would say to start is once again with that white balance. Here it's just a slider that you drag. So if you want to add more blue, we can go to the left, add more yellow or make the shot warmer, go to the right. And likewise with the tint, if you want to add a tint of green or a tint of pink, again, these are really minor adjustments you'd make, but this is where you do it. So start with the white balance, then I would suggest you come down here to color. And the first setting in here that I'll be playing with would be the exposure. So you can brighten up or darken off the shot and get that set to where you want it. And then if you wanted to boost the colors and say your skin tones, then you can adjust the vibrance and bring that up. So if we just go a quick before and after now, obviously this was using a preset as well. You can see that it looks totally different. So that's where I'd recommend you start, but obviously there are so many more controls and really quite a few professional grade tools in here as well, which is amazing. So once you're done and you're happy with how that looks, you can actually save it as your own preset. So if we hit save preset, let's call this JB, go okay, we can now apply that preset to any of our other clips in our timelines, or even in future projects as well. So once you've saved the preset that you like, you can then come across to any of your other clips, open up that color correction panel, go through and find your presets and apply it that way. So let's just go custom. There's one that we saved custom, JB, and go apply, and that is now applied to this clip as well. And the process is exactly the same with your other B-roll clips as well. So we want to add a color grade or a color effect to this one. We can right click and choose color correction, or we come back up here to that color panel and you've got all the same settings and everything in here that you can apply once again. So So back out of that now. So once you've gone through, at this point, your video should be pretty much done. Go through and do any final tweaks or adjustments to get it how you'd like it, and then it's time to export or to save your video out. And to do that, you can either come up here and hit this export button, or you can come to the top and choose export, create video. Now there's also options here to export and upload direct to YouTube or to Vimeo, but for this one here, we're just gonna go create video. So you can see in here, you've got a heap of settings. I'd say for most people, you want to be exporting it either as an MOV file or an MP4 file. You can see here, it's got our resolution set at 3840 by 2160. That was because the footage that we are editing here is 4K footage, so that's 4K. Then you can come over here to settings to dial all of this in and to customize it up. For the most part, what you'll find is based on the video footage that you've been editing in your timeline, Filmora does a very good job at giving you decent settings to export your videos. So really at this point, I'd say in customizing this up, for most people, you want to look at good, better, or best. And you can see the biggest difference here is the bitrate or the actual quality of those videos that is changing. And as you do that, the higher the bitrate, the larger the file size. So for us, we're going to leave this here at better and just choose OK. I'd also strongly recommend that you enable hardware acceleration for video decoding. If you have that option, it's going to make the exporting or the rendering a lot faster. And then all you need to do is hit export and your file is going to save out. So the only other thing that you need to do then is to play back your video and make sure that everything is how you want it. Obviously, if you've got changes, come back in here, make those changes and resave out your video again. But I would also strongly recommend that you are playing it back on a couple of different devices. So play it back on your phone or on an iPad or a tablet or something, just so you can see what it's going to look like on those devices, to make sure that you're happy with that. Most people these days are consuming their videos on phones and tablets and iPads and things, so it's a good idea to make sure that you're happy with how it looks on there, because it can differ from computer screen to computer screen, or even from phone to phone as well. All right, so that's a complete editing walkthrough using Filmora. Now, earlier in the video, I said that I would also share a link for you where you can download our primal video method, the most efficient and effective way to edit your videos down with minimal wasted time and rework. There is a link on screen and below in the description for you to download your free copy, print it out and use it while you are editing your videos. I'll see you in the next one.